Hi everyone! I wanted to create a video today covering melee and super squads. This video is going to be most applicable for clones because of their token sharing and into the fray, but may also be useful for other squads where the access to additional tokens may be beneficial. Please remember to like and subscribe. So first, let's look at our agenda. We're going to review the melee cohesion rules. Then we'll dive into some examples using Super Squad Cohesion into a single mini, into a squad, or into vehicles. So these are the melee cohesion rules. The first step is we need to confirm that our unit has a melee weapon. We're going to assume that your super squads all can do this, but it's worth noting that that is a first step in the rules. Then a unit leader must move or be placed into a unit to start a melee. So going forward, we're going to refer to the unit moving in as the attacking unit, and then the unit that's being moved into as the defending unit, though there are some instances where this can change. After an attacking unit leader moves into melee, other minis in the attacking unit move into base contact with the defending unit. Then, if the defending unit leader is not in base contact with the attacking unit, it is placed into melee. Then any remaining defending units minis are placed into base contact with the attacking unit. Any units that cannot be placed into melee must still remain in cohesion. This is where Super Squad effect comes in, as Super Squads allow us to cohere at range 1 instead of range 1/2. So let's look at our first example of a Super Squad cohesion into a single mini with other minis nearby. For the purposes of illustration, we're going to be using Tabletop Simulator to show you how these interactions will work. I've set up a squad of clones here led by Ahsoka, and then to counter them, Asajj here, and a squad of B1s with a heavy weapon here. For those of you that are not familiar with Tabletop Simulator, it does have a feature that allows you to show the range bands of interactions. For this example, I've set up a set of squads about range 1 apart, and in fact we're going to move them now all the way over here to range 2 apart, trying to get them to actually behave. So we'll say that these guys were hanging out over here for some reason, trying to avoid getting shot up in heavy cover. So this is something that you might encounter in your own games. Let's get them into proper cohesion. We don't need to be super precise here. So now we have Asajj over here, and these B1s way over here. In this example, we're going to assume that Asajj has already activated, and these B1s have not activated yet for some reason. So since we're in range, the clones are going to be charging into Asajj. So following the rules, first Ahsoka will move into melee with Asajj, move her token away. Then we're going to remove as many of our clones into base contact as we can. And we see in this example we can get about 4 minis in there. Perfect example, you could probably get 5 or 6 if the opposing mini was out of space. So now I have all of these guys that I can still do things with. So we're going to change our range band to look at where Ahsoka is. And I see I can put a clone way over here, and he's still legally in cohesion. In fact, I can move him all the ways to the very edge. Why does that matter? Well, if these clones have into the fray, he is now in range of this unactivated squad, which means that he cannot be shot because he is still considered to be in melee, but he can gain the benefit of that unit activating and getting a surge token. You can also use similar effects for things like HQ uplinks. Next, let's look at Super Squad Cohesion into another squad. So, in this case, the first thing we do is move our leader mini into base contact. In this case, we're going to move into the B1 squad. then we need to snap all of our other minis into cohesion with the B1s. And now I've set this up in such a way that we can actually get base contact with all of these minis, but let's assume for the sake of this example, we instead had moved these two B1s to be a little bit closer together. And you can now see what we can do is actually have a situation where there would have been, no room for all of our clones to fit. If I do this properly. So now we're in a situation where we as the blue player say, or attacking player, say, I can't fit any other minis in there. Well, I still have this guy over here I can do something with. So let's, again, pull out our range bands. And you can see we can place him way over here. So now he can easily activate when Asajj activates to gain us the benefit of that into the fray, HQ uplinks, etc. One note, obviously, it may not be the best idea to do this because Asajj can very easily move into melee with your squad now without having to move as far. So, and more importantly, if they do, that attacking unit does a lot of damage and for some reason this guy is defeated, now Asajj will be able to snap all the ways to the base to the unit leader after her combat is resolved. And if there were a POI or something like that, you're giving her a free speed boost. So it's an ability to spread out like this. That doesn't mean in every scenario you should do it. Finally, let's look at Super Squad cohesion into vehicles. This is something that people overlook sometimes, that vehicles, like other characters, must snap into cohesion. So for this example, we will first move Ahsoka into melee, into base contact. We're then going to move our clones in, like so. We apparently really do not like this first Aqua Droid. And let's say for the sake of argument that this Aqua was cohered way out here. So we can get a couple more minis in. And we'll call that good enough. So at this point, now that all of my minis have moved in, the defender must move their remaining mini into base contact. This can be especially useful when you need to pull a unit off of a point. So for example, if they're, instead of cohering this way, the unit leader was back here covering a POI and we were doing this, we could snap the unit leader into us and potentially prevent our opposing player from scoring. So I hope you found this helpful, and again, please remember to like and subscribe if you found it useful.